The day I brought my newborn daughter home should have been one of the happiest days of my life. Instead, it became the day I learned exactly how much I meant to my own mother. 3 days after giving birth, exhausted, sore, and running on almost no sleep, I sat in the back seat of my car with my tiny daughter sleeping against my chest. I smiled through tears as I imagined introducing her to the home where I had grown up. What I didn't know was that my mother had already decided that neither of us belonged there anymore. The moment I stepped through the front door, something felt wrong. Suitcases lined the hallway. Children's toys covered the living room floor. My brother Mark sat comfortably on the couch eating chips while his wife, Vanessa, scrolled through her phone. Nobody stood up to greet me. Nobody asked about the baby. Nobody even smiled. My mother walked out of the kitchen, crossed her arms, and looked at me with an expression so cold that I instantly felt a knot form in my stomach. "We need to talk," she said. I glanced at my sleeping daughter. "Can it wait? She just got home." "No." The sharpness in her voice cut through me. Then she pointed toward the staircase. "Mark and his family are moving in." I blinked. "What?" "They need more space." I looked around the house. The same house my father had built. The same house where I had lived for years helping Mom after Dad passed away. The same house where I paid utilities, property taxes, repairs, and maintenance for nearly 7 years. I laughed nervously. "Okay, and?" Mom's eyes hardened. "You need to move out." For a second, I genuinely thought she was joking. Then I saw Mark smirking. And Vanessa avoiding eye contact. My stomach dropped. "Move out?" "Yes." I stared at her. "I just had a baby. You'll figure something out." The room went silent. The words hit harder than anything. Not congratulations. Not welcome home. Not how are you feeling. Just, you'll figure something out. I looked at Mark. "You knew about this?" He shrugged. "We need the room." "The room?" I pointed upstairs. "There are 4 bedrooms." "Not enough." My hands trembled. "Mom, this is my home." "No," she snapped. "It's my home." The conversation ended with a sentence that would haunt me forever. "Make room for your brother's family." My daughter stirred in my arms as if she could feel my heart break. That night I cried harder than I had during labor. Not because I was losing a room. Because I realized I was losing the illusion that my mother loved me the same way she loved my brother. Looking back, the signs had always been there. Mark was the golden child. Mark got new cars. Mark got college paid for. Mark got every second chance imaginable. I got responsibilities. When Dad died unexpectedly from a heart attack, I was 25. Mark was 28. Yet somehow I became the one taking care of Mom. I postponed promotions. Skipped vacations. Paid bills when she struggled. Fixed the roof. Maintained the property. Spent weekends driving her to appointments. Mark rarely visited. But Mom always defended him. "He's busy. He has responsibilities. He's under pressure." Apparently I had none. The next morning I started searching for apartments. Every phone call felt humiliating. I had a newborn. Limited savings after maternity leave. And nowhere to go. Meanwhile Mark's family settled into the house like royalty. They took over the living room. The dining room. The garage. Even parts of the backyard. Every day I felt more like a stranger. Then things got worse. One afternoon I overheard Vanessa speaking with a friend. "We're lucky Sarah is leaving." I froze. The friend asked why. Vanessa laughed. "Because once she's gone, the house is basically ours." My heart nearly stopped. Ours? That word kept replaying in my head. That evening I confronted my mother. What does she mean the house will be theirs? Mom looked away. Nothing. No. Tell me. It's just a figure of speech. But something about her expression told me she was lying. A week later I received the final push I needed. I returned from a pediatric appointment and found my belongings packed into boxes. Boxes. My clothes. Baby supplies. Family photographs. Everything. Stacked by the front door. I felt physically sick. Who did this? Mark appeared. We were helping. Helping. I nearly screamed. My daughter began crying. So did I. That night I called the only person who had ever truly supported me. My father's attorney. Mr. Reynolds. He had known our family for decades. After listening carefully, he became strangely quiet. Then he asked a question. Has your mother ever shown you the deed? The deed? To the house. No. Another pause. Sarah, I think you should come see me. The next morning I arrived at his office carrying my daughter. He opened an old file cabinet, removed a thick folder, and placed a document in front of me. I stared at it. Then stared again. My hands began shaking. Because the name on the deed wasn't my mother's. It wasn't Mark's. It was mine. I looked up in disbelief. What is this? Mr. Reynolds adjusted his glasses. Your father transferred ownership to you 6 months before he died. I couldn't breathe. What? He was worried. Worried about what? He believed your mother would eventually leave everything to Mark. The room spun. He knew? Mr. Reynolds nodded. He loved your mother. But he understood her weaknesses. Tears filled my eyes. So the house legally belongs to you. I looked down at my sleeping daughter. Then back at the document. Years of sacrifice. Years of being overlooked. Years of believing I had no value. And suddenly everything changed. Mr. Reynolds continued. Your father left detailed instructions. He handed me a handwritten letter. I immediately recognized Dad's handwriting. My vision blurred as I read. Sarah. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I know you'll probably spend years taking care of everyone else before taking care of yourself. That's who you are. But this house belongs to you. You earned it long before I signed these papers. Never let anyone convince you that your kindness is weakness. And never let anyone take from your daughter what belongs to her future. Love. Dad. I cried so hard that the receptionist brought tissues. For the first time since giving birth, I felt something stronger than pain. I felt protected. Even from beyond the grave. 3 days later Mr. Reynolds accompanied me back to the house. Mom answered the door. Her smile vanished instantly. What is he doing here? Mr. Reynolds calmly handed her copies of the documents. She read the first page. Then the second. Then the third. The color drained from her face. Mark grabbed the papers. His jaw dropped. What is this? Mr. Reynolds answered. Proof that Sarah owns this property. Silence. Pure silence. The kind that changes lives. Mom looked at me. No. It's legal. No. It's been legal for 7 years. Mark exploded. This isn't fair. I laughed. For the first time in weeks. Actually laughed. Fair? The word echoed through the room. You wanted to throw me and my newborn out. Mom's eyes filled with tears. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of losing control. You wouldn't remove your family. I looked around. Family. Interesting word. Where had that family been when I needed support? Where had they been after childbirth? Where had they been when my belongings were packed into boxes? I took a deep breath. Then made a decision. One that shocked everyone. I'm not throwing anyone out today. Relief flooded Mom's face. Mark smirked. Then I continued. But you have 30 days to leave. The smirk disappeared. Mom gasped. You can't be serious. I am. This is my home. No, I replied quietly. It's mine. The exact words she had used against me. For once, she understood how they felt. The next month was chaos. Arguments. Begging. Guilt trips. Accusations. Mark called me selfish. Vanessa called me cruel. Mom called me ungrateful. Not one of them apologized. Not once. 30 days later they moved out. Every single one of them. When the final moving truck disappeared down the street, I stood on the porch holding my daughter. The same porch where I had once cried believing I was homeless. Now the evening sun illuminated the house my father had protected for us. My daughter giggled in my arms. I kissed her forehead. And finally felt at peace. Months later I renovated the property. Created a nursery. Planted flowers. Repaired the garden Dad loved. The house felt alive again. Mom attempted reconciliation eventually. Not because she missed me. Because she needed help. For the first time in my life, I said no. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just boundaries. A lesson I should have learned years earlier. Today my daughter is older. She runs through the halls laughing. Every corner of this home holds memories. Some painful. Some beautiful. But whenever she asks about her grandfather, I tell her the truth. I tell her he was a man who saw people for who they really were. A man who knew that kindness deserved protection. A man who left us more than a house. He left us dignity. And sometimes I think about that awful day when my mother pointed to the door and ordered me and my newborn out. The day she demanded that I make room for my brother's family. She believed she held all the power. She believed I had nowhere to go. She believed the story was over. What she didn't know was that my father had written the ending years before. And when the deed finally surfaced, the people who tried to throw us out discovered the truth. The house had never been theirs. Not for a single day.